Welcome to today's deep dive. We are jumping right into our source material today, and I want to take you all back to a very specific moment in time.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Yeah, you know the one.
Yeah.
It is September 27th, 2016. The scene is Guadalajara, Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
It's the International Astronautical Congress. Now, if you are in the aerospace world, this is basically the Super Bowl, Comic-Con, and the Oscars all rolled into one.
Absolutely. The energy in that room was electric.
Right, because Elon Musk is on stage.
Yeah, this was the big keynote. He was unveiling the interplanetary transport system, the massive vision for Mars. It was the moment the whole industry had been waiting for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He is up there showing these incredible renders, talking about making humanity multiplanetary, really inspiring stuff. But then the presentation ends, and we move to the Q&A portion.
Mm-hmm.
And it shifts.
It really did. Most of the questions were super technical, but then one audience member grabs the mic and asks something that just stops the room cold.
Yeah, they basically said, hey, you're going interplanetary, but you're not going international. When are you going to hire people from other countries?
It is such a pointed question.
It's a great question. I mean, you've got this room full of the brightest engineering minds from all over the planet, and they are looking at SpaceX, this beacon of innovation, and wondering, why not me?
And Musk's response was fascinating because he didn't just say, we don't want you.
Right.
He paused. He looked a little pained, actually, and he said, I think people are very confused about this. He claimed that rocket technology is considered advanced weapons technology. He effectively said his hands were completely tied by the U.S. government, specifically by ITAR regulations. The exact quote was, "It is not that I don't want to hire people, it is that I cannot hire people."
Cannot. That is a very definitive word.
Very.
He basically told the world, it is illegal. I would love to have you, but the law says no. And that answer, for a lot of people in that room and watching online, just shut the door. It killed the dream.
It certainly silenced the room. It sounded like the final, unarguable word on the matter.
But that is exactly why we are doing this deep dive today. We have been reading through a fascinating stack of documents, specifically a draft book titled Managing Foreign Nationals in the ITAR Workplace. And our mission today is to figure out if that was actually true. It turns out that definitive answer wasn't the whole truth. In fact, our source material suggests that Musk's answer might have been, let's call it a convenient simplification.
Yeah, a simplification that hid a very complex reality.
So to figure out if it's actually illegal for a foreign national to work in rocket science in the U.S., we need to unpack the complex world of export controls, the definitions of U.S. persons, and what the source calls the art of the possible.
Right, because it really is an art.
But before we get into the heavy regulations, we have to talk about Pachelbel's canon.
I was wondering when you would bring up the wedding music.
I have to. The source material opens with this fantastic analogy about a church organist. Let's unpack this for the listener. The author admits to being a bit of a musical fraud. For years, this organist played Pachelbel's canon in D, the classic wedding song, but they played it in the key of C major.
Right. And to the average listener sitting in the pews, that distinction means absolutely nothing.
Exactly. To the wedding guest, the untrained ear, it sounded perfect. It was pretty, it was recognizable. It got the bride down the aisle. But to a trained musician, playing it in C is, well, what is it?
It's lazy.
Yeah.
It is significantly easier to play on a keyboard because you don't have to worry about the black keys. It's a shortcut. It lacks the resonance and the specific tonal color of the original key of D. It is a simplified version of the piece that passes for the real thing only if you don't look too closely.
And this is the core argument the expert source makes about Musk's answer in Guadalajara. When Musk said, I can't hire you because of ITAR, he's playing Pachelbel in C major.
Precisely. It was a version of the truth that sounded right to the audience. I mean, everyone knows rockets are dangerous. Everyone knows the government is incredibly strict about weapons.
Yep.
So saying it's illegal sounds highly plausible. It completely satisfies the untrained ear. But if you are a trained musician in the world of export control, you know that answer is off-key.
It's a lazy misdirection.
Exactly. It's intentional misdirection that shuts the door on hope rather than explaining the messy reality.
So the D major version, the real complex truth, is that he could hire them, but he just didn't want to explain why it was so hard.
The reality is that hiring a foreign national in aerospace is not impossible. It is not strictly illegal. It is just excruciatingly difficult.
Gotcha.
It is expensive, it is resource heavy, and it involves a level of bureaucratic kung fu that most companies just don't want to deal with. Musk played the song in C because explaining the key of D would have taken an hour and involved a ton of nuance.
Okay, so let's stop playing the easy version. Let's play this in D major for our listeners.
Let's do it.
If we want to understand the truth, we have to define our players. Musk said people are confused. Honestly, I think a lot of people are confused. Who exactly is allowed to work on rockets? What makes someone a U.S. person?
This is the very first place where people get tripped up.
Hmm.
In the U.S., we tend to equate rights with citizenship, naturally, but under export control laws, and here we are talking about ITAR, the International Traffic in Arms Regulations, and the EAR, the Export Administration Regulations, the legal definition of a U.S. person is much broader than just citizens.
So it's not just people with blue passports.
No, not at all. A U.S. person obviously includes citizens, but it also includes lawful permanent residents.
The green card holders.
Exactly. Green card holders are fully U.S. persons under these rules. But it also includes a third category called protected individuals.
Okay, what is a protected individual?
This is a crucial category. It includes political refugees and asylees, people who have been granted asylum in the United States.
Wait, so if I am a refugee who just got granted asylum, legally, under ITAR, I am in the exact same category as a guy born and raised in Ohio.
For the purposes of export control, yes. You can touch the rocket parts. You can read the blueprints. You are a U.S. person.
That is a massive distinction. Because if that is the definition, then companies posting job ads that say U.S. citizens only are technically restricting people they legally shouldn't be restricting.
And that is exactly why the Department of Justice went after SpaceX.
Lawsuit.
Yes. In August 2023, the DOJ filed a major lawsuit alleging that SpaceX was systematically discriminating against asylees and refugees.
Wow.
The DOJ found internal communications and hiring data showing that SpaceX was effectively screening out anyone who wasn't a citizen or a green card holder, and they were operating under this blanket ITAR excuse.
So the government, the very entity Musk claimed was stopping him from hiring, sued him for stopping people from getting hired.
The irony is pretty palpable.
Yeah.
The DOJ's argument was essentially this. ITAR restricts foreign persons. It does not restrict refugees. By telling refugees they can't work here because of ITAR, you are discriminating against them.
And it proves that the blanket we can't hire non-citizens statement wasn't legally sound.
Exactly.
Now, before we move on to foreign persons, I want to note a very specific instruction from our source material.
The naming rule.
Yes, the Pierre rule. The author explicitly warns against using racial or national stereotyping names when discussing hypothetical foreign workers.
Yep.
So you won't hear us talking about Pierre from France or anything like that. We're sticking strictly to the legal term foreign person.
Which is important because a foreign person is literally everyone else. Anyone on a visa, an H-1B, an F-1 student visa, they are a foreign person under the law.
Okay, but I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
I have heard plenty of people say, well, what about spy satellites? If SpaceX is launching a top-secret payload for the military, surely an asylee can't just walk up and work on that, right?
Right. And this is where we need to separate the two rule books. This is a critical distinction that the source points out. There is export control, which is ITAR and EAR, and then there is security clearance.
They have the same thing.
Not at all. ITAR is about technology transfer. It's making sure the underlying tech doesn't leave the country. A green card holder or an asylee is completely fine for that.
Okay.
Security clearance, on the other hand, is about accessing classified U.S. government information, secret or top secret data. For that, the government almost always strictly requires U.S. citizenship.
I see. So Musk wasn't totally wrong. He was just conflating the two things to make his point easier to digest.
He was definitely blurring the lines. Yes, if you are working on the specific payload integration for a highly classified spy satellite, you probably need to be a citizen. But building the rocket engine, welding the fuel tank, designing the landing legs, that is ITAR work.
And a protected individual can absolutely do that. Okay, so we've established that U.S. persons cover a lot more ground than Musk implied. But what about the person who asked the question in Guadalajara?
Right.
The brilliant engineer on a student visa who doesn't have a green card. The true foreign person. Why do companies say no to them?
Now we are entering what the source material calls the tango with chainsaws.
I love that phrase. It's so vivid.
It is.
The source basically says Musk played in C major because playing in D major isn't just a little harder. It's like trying to perform a complex, sophisticated dance while juggling flaming tiki torches and chainsaws.
It's really not an exaggeration. If an aerospace company decides to hire a true foreign person, someone on an H-1B visa, for example, they are legally allowed to do so. But the obstacles and compliance requirements are nightmarish.
Let's walk through these obstacles because the source breaks them down into four main reasons companies run away from this. Reason one, we already touched on classified government contracts that demand citizens.
Right.
But reason two is physical access. And the text introduces a concept called visual release.
Visual release.
It sounds like something from a sci-fi movie. Like, do not look directly at the laser.
It's actually quite literal. Under ITAR, exporting technology doesn't just mean packing up a rocket engine in a crate and shipping it to another country. It means revealing technical data to a foreign person.
Okay.
And that can happen just by looking at something.
So if our hypothetical foreign person walks through the shop floor and sees a rocket engine disassembled on a workbench.
If they can see the internal geometry, the injector plate design, or how the specific cooling channels are routed, you have just exported that technology directly to their brain.
Even if they never touch it.
Even if they never touch it, even if they never write a single note down, the photons hitting their retinas constitute an illegal export unless you have a specific license for it.
That is wild. So you're telling me the company has to physically blindfold them?
Or build walls. You literally have to install physical partitions on the factory floor. You need badge readers on every single door. You have to create escorted-only zones where this employee has to be walked to the bathroom if the route takes them past sensitive hardware.
It sounds like treating a colleague like they are radioactive.
It does. And that leads directly into another major obstacle: management risk. It creates a massive cultural divide.
A disruption.
Exactly. The source mentions the break room problem. Engineers love shop talk. They sit around eating their sandwiches and saying, "Hey, did you see the pressure spike on the turbo pump test yesterday?"
Right. That's just normal work conversation.
But if a foreign person is in that break room and hears that, and they are not licensed for that specific turbo pump data, that casual conversation is a federal violation.
So what happens? Do they eat lunch alone?
Or everyone else has to be trained to suddenly shut up when they walk in the room. Everyone walks on eggshells. It absolutely kills the collaborative culture of a fast-paced tech company. It's not just the law, it changes the whole vibe of the workplace.
Wow. And that is just the physical world. Reason three is logical access. I imagine the IT department have a total meltdown over this.
Oh, it is an IT nightmare. You can't just give a foreign person a standard company login. The entire network must be partitioned.
Right, because they can't have general access to the server where all the blueprints live.
Exactly. They can only see very specific siloed folders. And there are strict requirements for end-to-end encryption, secured VPNs if they work remotely. You are essentially building a digital fortress inside your existing network just for one employee.
Okay, I am really starting to see why Musk just said, we can't. Juggling chainsaws seems incredibly accurate, but the source material is adamant that it's possible. There is a solution.
There is a legal mechanism.
And text calls it the magic key. What is this magic license?
It is known as a DSP-5.
DSP-5.
Yeah, it stands for Department of State form, specifically the DSP-5 Foreign Person Employee License. This is the exact mechanism the Directorate of Defense Trade Controls, or DDTC, created for this scenario.
So how does it work? Is it a blanket pass like, we got the foreigner license, let them roam free?
No, it's highly specific. A company applies to the State Department specifically to share particular data with this one specific foreign person.
So it's tied to the individual.
Yes. You say, we want to hire this person to work on this specific project, accessing this exact set of data.
And we also have to touch on visas here, right? Because the DSP-5 doesn't get you into the country.
Correct. The license is completely separate from immigration. You still need the right visa.
The source mentions a few. There's the F1 visa with OPT or CPT.
Right. That allows international students to work in the U.S. if the job directly relates to their major. So an aerospace engineering student could work at a rocket company.
Then there's the famous H-1B for specialty occupations.
Very common in tech and engineering.
And then there's the O-1 visa. This part of the text cracked me up. The O-1 is for extraordinary ability, right?
Yes, the genius visa.
And the author jokes about whether a hot dog eating champion qualifies for an O-1.
It's a great example. And legally, yes. If you are Joe Chestnut and you are demonstrably the best in the world at eating hot dogs, you have extraordinary ability. But obviously, to build rockets, you need to be a world-class engineer, not a competitive eater.
Right. And just to round out the regulatory alphabet soup, the text also mentions EAR, the Department of Commerce regulations.
Yes. Getting a license from the Bureau of Industry and Security, the BIS, under EAR is generally simpler than dealing with ITAR and the State Department, but it's still a hurdle.
So let's say a company commits. They spend the money, they get the visa, they apply for the DSP-5 Magic license, they partition the servers, they build the walls. Are we finally good to go?
Not so fast.
Uh-oh.
The source material explicitly warns that there is no free lunch in export control. Even if the State Department grants the DSP-5 license, they often attach what are called provisos.
Proviso, so conditions.
Exactly, conditions that dictate what the person cannot do. And there are 3 specific restrictions that the expert calls death by proviso.
Death by proviso, what are they?
These are 3 things that can completely kill a job role. The government might approve the license, but say, this employee cannot have access to 1, manufacturing know-how, 2, engineering analysis, or 3, design methodology.
Wait a second. Let me get this straight.
Okay.
If I am hired as a brilliant development engineer, but the proviso says I cannot see the design methodology, which is basically the philosophy and the why behind the design decisions,
Right.
and I cannot see the manufacturing know-how, which is detailed processes on how to actually build the item,
Yeah.
then what on earth am I actually doing?
You are completely useless.
Yeah.
You can't design a better rocket engine if you aren't legally allowed to know why the current one was built that way. You can't fix a production error on the floor if you can't see the manufacturing data.
So the government hands the company a license that says yes, but strips out everything that makes the employee valuable in the first place.
That is the ultimate conundrum. You spend 6 months getting the license, you hire this brilliant person, and then you realize they are legally prohibited from sitting in the design review meetings. This is why companies hesitate.
It's not just laziness.
No, it's the risk that the juice isn't worth the squeeze.
It really feels like the system is designed to make you just give up.
It is designed to prioritize security over commercial convenience every single time.
But here's where the story takes a massive twist.
The best part of the text.
Yeah, we have spent this whole time talking about the foreign person.
Yeah.
We are treating them like a radioactive threat. We are vetting them, licensing them, building walls around them, monitoring their emails.
Because the inherent assumption is that the foreign national is the security risk, the potential spy.
Right. But the source material, and
Yeah.
remember this is written by an expert who deals with this daily, argues that the foreign person is actually not the biggest risk. Who is the real threat?
It's the everyday U.S. employee.
The citizen.
Yes. The statistics on export violations show that the vast majority of leaks don't come from malicious foreign spies trying to steal secrets. They come from complacent U.S. employees.
And the author has a great line here. Don't blame the player, blame the game.
Exactly. Why is the U.S. employee the risk? Complacency and poor training. The source uses this analogy of drive-through training, which is just spot on.
Yeah, describe the drive-through training.
Think about the average U.S. citizen engineer working at one of these companies. They get an annual export control training session. It is usually a generic slideshow.
Click, click, click.
Right. And it lasts maybe 20 minutes.
Which is about the time it takes to wait in a drive-through for a burger.
Exactly. They click through it, they sign a digital form saying they understand, and they go right back to work. We are expecting them to memorize and flawlessly execute thousands of pages of complex federal regulations based on a 20-minute refresher once a year.
So meanwhile, the foreign person who knows their visa and their entire livelihood depends on following the rules strictly is probably the most compliant person in the building.
They are terrified of breaking a single rule. But the U.S. employee, they get comfortable. They forget the nuances. They leave a sensitive blueprint sitting on their desk when they go to lunch.
Or the break room shop talk.
Right. They talk way too loudly about a project at a local coffee shop. Or, very commonly, they email a controlled document to their personal Gmail account just so they can work on it over the weekend.
Oh man, just let me finish this at home.
And boom, that is a major export violation. You just sent technical weapons data to an unsecured, unmonitored server. That is exactly where the leaks happen.
The irony here is just staggering.
It really is.
Companies are terrified of hiring a foreign person who would be heavily vetted, explicitly licensed, and highly monitored. But their own staff are inadvertently leaking data left and right because of poor training and poor resource allocation.
They are locking the front door with 5 deadbolts and leaving the back window wide open.
So if we zoom out and look at the big picture here, we go back to Elon Musk on that stage in Mexico. He says, I am legally prevented from hiring international talent. But the reality is, hiring a foreign national in aerospace is not illegal.
It is not illegal.
It requires money, it requires intense motivation, and it requires a highly sophisticated compliance infrastructure.
It requires practicing the art of the possible.
Art of the possible. So was he lying?
I wouldn't call it a lie, but it was definitely the C major version of the truth. He simplified a very messy regulatory landscape to justify a business decision. He didn't want to perform the tango with chainsaws. He wanted to move fast, break things, and get to Mars. And heavy compliance slows you down.
But for you, the listener out there, whether you are an international engineering student dreaming of spaceflight, or maybe you are a hiring manager at a tech startup grappling with these rules, the door isn't welded shut.
No, it's just very heavy. You have to push hard. You need to understand the DSP-5. You need to separate ITAR from security clearances.
Yeah.
And you need to be ready to fight the provisos.
Right.
But it can be done.
It can. And I think that brings us to a final thought I want to leave you all with today. Something the source material really made me ponder.
Let's hear it.
If the real source of technology leaks is usually untrained, complacent U.S. employees and not foreign nationals, are we, as a country, systematically shutting out the world's absolute best talent based on a fear that simply doesn't match the data?
That is the million-dollar question. If the next revolutionary propulsion genius is sitting in a university in India or Italy, and we refuse to hire them because the paperwork is too annoying, we aren't just protecting our technology, we are stunting our own progress.
We are limiting the future because we are afraid of a risk we've misidentified.
Exactly.
So the next time a CEO gives a very simple, definitive answer to a complex regulatory question, remember the church organist.
Always question the key signature. Is it really the truth, or are they just playing it in C major for the audience?
That is all for today's deep dive into the messy, bureaucratic, and utterly fascinating world of rocket science export controls. Keep questioning the key signature, and we will catch you on the next one.